Hello viewers, this is another episode on Time with Your Banker. We'll be treating trade as a topic today. We take a short break. When we come back, we'll introduce our guest. Welcome back viewers. We have a very distinguished guest on our program today. He's the president of the Chartered Institute of Bankers. He's worked with the Ghana Commercial Bank, Metropolitan and Allied Bank, NIB, and now the executive advisor on instrumental and international relationship with Unibank. He's taught at the National Banking College with the Chartered Institute of Bankers, and he holds a fellow in the ACIB. Our distinguished guest is Mr. Clifford Mettle. Sir, you are welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
As I've already stated, we'll be treating trade as a topic today. Sir, what exactly is trade?
Good. Thank you very much. Trade, I must say, I will look at it in two angles. The first one is trade within, and then international trade.
Trade within, that's trade in the country.
Local, yes.
Local trade.
That's right. Now, trade basically means the selling and then the buying of goods and services. So you look at an instance where it's a transfer of ownership of goods and services, which results in payment or settlement.
Okay.
Right. Now, once this transaction goes beyond borders, and then you have two or more countries engaged in the transaction, then we are now looking at international trade.
Yes, sir. But sir, let's look at the local ones first,
Okay.
and then we'll go to the foreign.
Right. So locally, we are saying that within the boundaries of a country, assuming somebody has a particular commodity and another entity needs that commodity, they will engage in an exchange. So the goods and services will move to one person within the same country, and then payments would also move to the person who delivered.
So it could be in, let's take Ghana as an example.
Right.
It could be in, the trade transaction can be located in Accra.
Oh.
It could also be in Kumasi,
Right.
Tamale, or the various regions. But it could be Accra,
And
one person transacting in Accra and another in Kumasi,
Correct.
or another Tamale and in Accra. But it is all trade.
That's correct.
Trading in goods and services.
Yeah, and of course, we can quickly chip in the fact that now we are talking about looking at visible and invisible trade.
Yeah.
You know, so when we talk about visible trade, we are looking at physical goods and physical goods exchange, and then when we go to invisible, then we are looking at services.
Okay.
You know, yeah. So those are the two distinctions. But as you rightly pointed out, you can have the dealings between somebody in Accra and all the way to the north.
Okay.
You know, and so the parties are the buyers, the sellers, traders, middlemen. All those are parties to the trade.
But where does the bank come in this matter locally?
Okay, there the bank comes in where you have a situation where there's a medium of exchange, which is money. And also the bank's role is very predominant where you have a situation where the two parties don't actually trust each other, or where they have not engaged in long-term trading.
The trust could be there, but
Yeah.
you know, when it comes to money issues,
That's
though
right.
there is trust, there should be a sort of medium that can
Exactly.
communicate or cut the monies from one joint to the other.
Exactly. So the transmission
Yeah.
reasons, of course, you also need a party which is credible and trustworthy.
Yeah.
And then you also need to make sure that, assuming you want the money to be moved from one account to the other, definitely a bank has to be involved.
Okay.
So the system of transmission of monies and payments is actually the role of the bank. So always you have the financial intermediation role that the banks play between the traders.
So instead of trading with, for instance, someone being in Accra and trading in the north,
Yeah.
Instead of you carrying large sums of money
That's right.
from the north to come down to Accra before you come and buy whatever you need,
Yeah.
you can pay the amount into your bank in Tamale or any of the banks in Tamale, and then get down to Accra, pick the money and pay,
That's correct.
rather than carry it in bulk.
And I must quickly add that in this era of what we call e-payments,
Okay.
you know, you have a system where you might not necessarily even need to carry the cash at all. All you need to do is just load the card onto a plastic, and then it is downloaded in another vicinity.
So let's break the e-pay. Since you've brought
Okay.
that one up,
Right.
let's break it down a little, because it looks
Okay.
as if the populace, they don't really understand what the e-payment systems are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Now, we have a situation where you want to move the entire country from a country which involves a lot of cash movement to a cashless society, or what we now call a cash light society. So if you go to a bank, for example, you would, instead of going to a teller to go and pay cash and then move, you can use an ATM.
Okay.
Right. So your money is loaded onto a card. The same thing like the eSwitch card that you can use to make payments.
What about the eSwitch?
Yes, it's the GIPS, or the Bank of Ghana promoted card, which you can pick from any bank, assuming you want to pay your child's school fees.
Okay.
Then you can load onto the card.
You go to the bank.
You go to the bank and then say, assuming you want to load maybe 1,000 Ghana cedis onto the account, you do that. Now, then there's a point of sale device, which would be, for instance, in the child's school.
Okay.
So if you want to give 200 Ghana out of that 1,000 to her, then that will be transmitted to the school. Then all that your child will do is to walk into where the point of sale device is, and then submit his particulars or whatever, and then take the money.
So the child does not need to also have a card.
No. The child can have a card if she also needs to load the money onto the card. She might not use all the money at the same time. So
But
that
without
can
a card, the child can access his
card
or
can
her
access
money.
the money, you know. And
That
then,
is with the eSwitch.
yes, and it can also be used at supermarkets, you know, a few other locations where it is accepted. Then we also have the Visa card, the MasterCard, you know. Now these are all cards that are even used internationally. So you load the money onto it, you go to Dubai, you spend it. You can even have the card and spend it even locally. You know, the only thing is that the banks or the system is like that wherever you use the money, it is immediately debited to your account, right? If it's a credit card, you even have the option to even use beyond the amount that you have in your account.
Okay.
And the arrangement is the accommodation will be made by the bank. You know, so these are systems that do not involve cash. For example, internet payments. You can move funds from your account to the trader's account if the person is also internet savvy.
Okay.
Then the funds can be moved without necessarily. Now, these are the platforms that we term as the e-payments platforms.
Since this e-payment issue came up, somebody was asking me the other day that if his friend is outside the country and he wants a Visa card, can that be possible?
Yeah, I mean...
He's not residing in Ghana.
yeah, I mean, if you are not residing in Ghana, assuming you are in the UK,
Yeah.
and you want a Visa card, once you have a bank account and they are partners of the Visa company, you can just walk in, there's a form you fill, you pick up a card. Now, the same way when you come to Ghana, those banks which are affiliated to the Visa or the MasterCard platforms, all you need to do is that if you open an account, they can immediately issue you with their card.
But the person is residing in UK.
Yeah.
And he has an account here.
In Ghana.
That means that if he wants to access a Visa card, he has to come down and then fill in the necessary forms before the card will be...
No, banks have these arrangements where some of them have rep offices outside. For example, in the UK,
Okay.
some of the banks have rep offices there. So you can pick up the form there, fill it, and it will be couriered to Ghana.
Oh, okay.
And then the card will be issued and then couriered back to you. Okay. Now that arrangement is also there. So you don't necessarily have to come down to Ghana to just come and pick a Visa card and go back. No, you know.
So it's still on trade.
Yeah.
I think we've discussed the local trade at length, that one need not be moving funds within the country anytime he needs to make payments.
That's correct.
How about foreign trade or
international trade?
International trade.
Yeah, international trade also has similar, methods of payments and methods of settlements. So let me just mention a few. Now, by way of payments, we are trying to look at the vehicles through which you can make a payment when you have received goods and services. The first one we have is what we call the open account system.
That is on the international trade.
International trade. Now we have moved outside the domain of locality. Two parties.
Where two parties are into trading, but one is outside the country.
Correct.
And one is within.
Correct.
He wants to sell his goods to the other part, maybe in Japan or in Germany. In the same vein, he wants to buy from them.
That's correct. Okay. So in all this, remember that we have importers and exporters.
Okay.
Buyers and sellers. So your party can be just an importer in Ghana, importing from, let's say, Brazil. So all that he will do is that he has to arrange for the payments, and then the person in Brazil has to arrange for the goods. So as I said, the methods of payments that we have what you call the open account. Now, with the open account, there are two parties involved, the importer and the exporter. When you talk about open account, you are talking about a situation where the exporter has decided that he will send the goods first for the importer to receive. When the importer receives the goods, then he will make payment, right? Now, that is number one. There's the second one we call advance payments. Now, in this case, it's just like the opposite of the open account. In the case of the advance payments, it means that the importer will send the money first to the exporter. After he has received the money and it's okay, then he will send the goods. The third one is what we call documentary collections. And that's a situation where you would have the importer and the exporter agreeing that a nominated bank or some banks will be asked to collect the proceeds on their behalf. So the exporter has his bank and then the importer has his bank. When the exporter sends the goods, the documents of title will be sent to his banks with an instruction on how payment should be made.
So let's look at the open account.
Yes,
properly.
okay. So let's
or you want to elaborate
I wanted to give the fourth one, and then we'll take one by one. Now, the last one is documentary credits or LCs, letters of credit. Again, in that area, there's a medium of a bank. The parties will nominate their banks, and then there will be specific instructions which the exporter has to comply with. Once it's able to do that, then payment will be made. Okay. So now let me come back to take each of these methods one by one. The first one is the open account. The importer is trying to look at the case where he will receive the funds first, the goods first, sorry. So once the goods are received, then he will make payments. Now, this is a bit dangerous because if he receives the goods and he decides that he will not pay, you have lost control over the goods.
Viewers, we are taking a short break. We'll be back soon. Welcome back. Mr. Metal, we were discussing trade.
That's correct.
You've elaborated 4 of them.
Right.
4 terms of payment. That is the open account, advance payment, documentary collection, and the letters of credit.
That's correct.
Can you elaborate them?
Okay.
One by one.
So let me take the first one, open account.
Yes, please.
As I said, because the goods are received first before payments are made, if you are a trader and you are engaged in open accounts, once you agree with your counterparty that you are going to engage in open account, you must make sure that there's an element of trust. You must make sure that credibility is very high. You must make sure that there's a track record before you agree with your counterparty that you will go into open account. Now, the reasons are simple. Number one, once the goods are received for example, you have cocoa and you've sent it, or you have coffee and you've sent it, you have shea butter, you've sent it, and then the counterparty receives it, he can choose to pay you or not. And you've lost control over the goods. So before you engage in open account, you have to make sure that these elements that I've listed are there. Credibility, trustworthiness, and then track record.
So if a Ghanaian, for instance, who is a pineapple farmer, decides to export to the UK, and he goes into open market terms, that means that he prepares his goods, ships it over to UK, and at the end of the day, he expects payment.
That's correct.
And it's a 50-50 chance.
Absolutely.
So he may, when the goods leaves our shore, that means he has lost control. If the guy doesn't pay, his hands are down.
Yes.
So where does the bank come in?
Okay. So
because if it is open market, I expect that the bank can advise such a customer. If it is the open account we're talking about.
That's right. Yeah. The bank can certainly advise the customer. And in most banks, they have a desk for business advisory services, where they will want to educate their customers. And therefore, they will tell you about the risk involved, which probably will come to. But in the case of open account and advance payments, where monies go first or where goods go first, it is very, very important that the customer will make sure that he is not losing sight of his goods or is not giving away his money until he's very positive that
he will receive payments.
He will receive payments, you know. So those are the key issues. Now, the other thing too is that if you send the money, you might not receive the goods at all, or you might not receive the right specification.
That is with the advance payment.
Exactly.
That one is advance monies.
That's right.
Suppose somebody wants to buy cola from Ghana, or I think they have this, okay, let's forget about that. But because there are a lot of, I think, cashew, Yes. People export cashew. And those people who normally do that don't have enough money to buy the quantities that the suppliers are looking for.
Okay.
And if he's able to convince whoever wants to buy from him and the person sends the money, and monies are advanced to him, he may also end up not sending the right quality.
That's right. And or if he's a very terrible person, he might not even send the goods at all, and then you are stuck. So it's very important that all the time, before you engage in either open account or advance payment, you have some advice from your bankers to let you know the risks that you are facing. Indeed, if you look at most of the imports from the Far East, they insist that you send the monies first. And we've had situations where people have sent monies to the Far East and they don't receive the goods at all. We have had situations where even knowledgeable people, insist that they should send the money because they have received a pro forma invoice from a company in China or in Korea or whatever, and it is saying that they should send the money first. But you have to be careful.
Viewers, we are hearing it from the gurus themselves. If you want to do an export, why don't you go to your banker and speak with the person? He's already told us that there are advisory desks. You can go there, ask all the questions you need, or you can email your questions to theeaglebanker@gmail.com. We'll give responses to all your questions. But I think you should seek advice before you make any move to export goods out of the country. Sir, can we continue?
Okay. Now, in view of this, then banks evolved into this particular pattern of trade because they realize that people are losing monies and it's not going, it's going against some of the parties involved. So the bank said, okay, you can ship the goods, but when you ship the goods, the documents of title, which will enable the importer to collect the goods from the ports, give those documents to us.
Then we go into the documentary collections.
That's
but
right.
I think we should break down the advance payments a little, because the advance payment too, it could be beneficial to the exporter if he's the genuine guy. Because if he really wants to export and he's cash trapped, and is able to access these monies, he could use it usefully.
Absolutely.
So it should not be that so rigid.
Yeah.
Because if this person is truly genuine and he has the support of his bankers, he could do very good business with this.
Yeah.
With monies that are sent to him.
That's right. You know, but you should also ensure that you have the guarantee in the event that the person takes your money and is not performing. So you can ask for a performance bond. Well,
I'm looking at the Ghanaian exporter.
That's correct. Yes, that's correct.
The Ghanaian exporter, because the Ghanaian exporter can take advantage of this advance payment.
That's true.
To enhance his business.
Yes, but we've also had situations where Ghanaian exporters have taken monies from Europeans and they have not exported. All right?
Wow.
So what we are saying is that let us all, this is an international trading transaction. Therefore, let us all make sure that when we are doing this, we cover ourselves.
Yeah.
The cover is very key, you know, because you can send monies, I mean, either way, either Ghanaian sending money overseas or an overseas counterparty sending monies to Ghana. In all the cases, do you trust the person? Have you done your due diligence? Is there any track record which shows that the person, you know, these are very, very important ingredients in the trading business. And if they are not there, then you have to really be mindful of what you are doing and talk to your bankers.
Yeah. But say, if an European or an outsider, a foreigner, decides to transfer monies to a client here, from whom he is buying goods, can he route it through the bank? Because he can ask his bank to forward the monies directly to the account of that client here in Ghana or the exporter in Ghana. But can the bank ensure that the exporter, who is his customer, does the right thing by sending the goods to his counterparty?
Good question. But that brings us to the third method of payment. That brings us to the situation where the bank is saying that if you want me to do that, then I cannot ensure that the person sends you the goods unless I have the documents. So if you ship the goods, send me the documents. And that brings us to documentary collections.
Viewers, you know, when discussions of this nature are going on, it becomes very exciting, but time is not on our side. We'll close today's chapter. Catch you again next week. I'm your banker, Betty Ayi. Thanks for watching Time with Your Banker.